Throughout history, believers have wrestled with a profound and often overlooked question. What does it truly mean to honor the name of the Creator? In this presentation, we explore the third commandment, its original Hebrew meaning, and what modern Bible translations may or may not be getting right. The third commandment is direct and unambiguous. Found in Exodus chapter 20, verse 7, it states, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain." This commandment is not a minor footnote. It is one of the 10 foundational instructions given to his people, and it carries a specific, consequential warning. Those who misuse the name of the Creator will not be held guiltless. The Creator's personal name, rendered in Aramaic Hebrew as YHWH and pronounced by many as Yahuwah, appears approximately 7,000 times in the original Hebrew scripture. 7,000 times. And yet, in most modern English Bible translations, that name has been removed, replaced in every instance by the generic titles Lord or God, printed in small capital letters. This raises a profound question. If his name appears 7,000 times in Scripture, why is it absent from our Bibles? The answer lies in century-old practice rooted in Jewish tradition. Out of a deep reverence for God's name, Jewish custom developed the practice of substituting the name with a title, most commonly Adonai, meaning Lord. This tradition was adopted by Bible translators who argued that using a title rather than the name preserved its kodeshness, while making the text more accessible to ordinary readers. Major translations, including the New International Version and the English Standard Version, follow this approach consistently throughout the entire text. When we compare major English translations side by side, the pattern is clear. The NIV uses Lord throughout. The ESV uses Lord throughout. However, the Holman Christian Standard Bible makes a notable exception, partially restoring the name to Yahweh in select passages where it felt the name carried particular theological weight. It remains one of the few mainstream translations to do so, even partially. But now, new translations that use his name Yahuwah are being produced more and more each year on a consistent basis. Here's the theological debate and where it sharpens. Proponents of the substitution argue that using a title rather than a name is itself an act of reverence, a way of honoring the commandment by protecting the name from misuse. But critics offer a compelling counterargument. If the third commandment forbids taking the name in vain, and if the Hebrew word in vain means destruction or ruin, then removing the name entirely renders it absent from Scripture, may be precisely the kind of act the commandment forbids. Can you truly honor a name by erasing it? Scripture identifies at least three distinct ways in which the Creator's name can be misused, or in the language of the original Hebrew, cast to ruin. The first is the most familiar, using God's name casually, flippantly, or disrespectfully in speech. The second involves false oaths, invoking the Creator's name to validate a claim or a promise that is in fact untrue. The third is perhaps the most penetrating, living in a way that misrepresents the character of the Creator. When someone claims to represent God but acts contrary to his nature, they take his name in vain through their very deeds. To fully grasp the commandment, we must return to the original Hebrew. The word translated as vain in Exodus 27 is shoah, and it does not simply mean casual or thoughtless. Shoah means destruction or ruin. This single word transforms the entire weight of the commandment. We're not being warned against mere carelessness. We are being warned against the act of spiritual ruin, a destructive misuse of the most sacred name in existence, or I should say Kodesh name in existence. Consider the implications of this carefully. If Shoah means ruin or destruction, and the commandment warns against casting the name into Shoah, and then any act that renders his name empty, worthless, or absent constitutes a violation. The original Hebrew is not subtle, it is grave. It demands that we take seriously how and whether we use the Creator's name. When we translate Exodus chapter 20, verse 7 as literally as possible from the Hebrew, this is what we find. You do not cast the name of Yahuwah your Elohim to ruin. Notice the active verb, cast. This is not a passive oversight. This is not an accidental neglect. To cast his name to ruin is a deliberate act, and the commandment stands as a direct prohibition against it. Replacing his personal name with a generic title across thousands of passages may constitute exactly this kind of act. The third commandment does not leave the consequence to imagination. It states plainly, Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. In a legal and covenant text, to be held guiltless means to be found innocent, to be acquitted. The commandment warns that those who cast the Creator's name to ruin will not be acquitted. Scripture is clear. The reverence, preservation, and proper use of his name carries real and lasting consequence. Now we bring both perspectives together. Those who advocate for restoring Yahuwah's name to the weight of Scripture itself, 7,000 appearances, the explicit commandment, and the destructive meaning of Shoah. If his name is present throughout text, it should be present in our translation. Those who defend the traditional substitution point to centuries of reverent tradition, the risk of misuse through overuse, and the practical accessibility of familiar titles, both sides claim to be honoring the Creator, but the commandment, taken literally in its original Hebrew, may offer the clearest answer. As we close, let us anchor 5 key truths from this study. First, the third commandment calls us to honor the name of the Creator, not to discard or replace it. Second, Yahuwah's name appears approximately 7,000 times in the original Hebrew scriptures, and most modern Bibles remove it entirely. Third, the Hebrew word shoah means destruction, not carelessness. The commandment is far weightier than we have often been taught. Fourth, substituting his personal name with generic titles may render it empty and absent, which in itself is a form of Shoah, destruction. And fifth, how we translate scripture is not merely a linguistic choice. It's a theological and spiritual one with real consequences. The name of the Creator is not a footnote, it is foundational. Honor the name, know the name, Yahuwah.